So a few remarks, few notes. So maybe I'll just lower it just for a couple of minutes. So I'm uploading a video that shows that I got rid of 4 containers tonight. 2 of the actually very important ones, like the Nescafe. So it was done in 2 parts, both like practical and ceremonial. The ones with the water for the salt water container, and the one with the sodium bicarbonate. Both contain tremendous amount of neros, and they are gone to a place that is not recoverable. Also, I got rid of like a temporary container. That is not very important. It was used for the electrolysis experiment as a basis, like the vanilla mixture. And at last, and this is not shown in the video that I upload because it was done later in Tel Aviv. It was on the beach actually. I got rid of the cookie jar, which is like historical container, very important. So it's all done, and now I'm burning what's left of the remnants of the medium metal container. So it's almost all gone, besides the biggest one, which is the big metal container, but without the wax, which is the most important part. But this is all burned. But we still have the water, several good liters, maybe 3 liters after all the reductions, and it contains tremendous amount of neros with the sodium bicarbonate. It's like amazing mixture, and probably I'll get rid of it if not now, later today. I need to find a way to do it, of course, in a way that will not be recoverable at all, and then there will be no more incentive for the violent behavior. There is always incentive, but not at least this incentive will be removed. Am I sad? Not that much, because I always understood that I cannot sell it. It was billions, but I cannot sell it. I'm a slave. Slaves cannot sell. Slaves are property. So from my point of view, it was always an issue of research interest. And if I'll find if one day I will be rescued from the Nazi prison, me and my daughters, wherever I will be able to continue the research. Of course, when I'm not incarcerated and I have a little bit of money, I can create everything that I've destroyed in a very short amount of time. Ecosystems takes several months, but even 2 or 3 months are not that much. And of course, with more knowledge, I can do it much better and in a more diverse way. I don't need it all that much. It's you that need it in order to live. But you prefer death. All of the people of the intelligence services of the world. There is no way for you to get the stuff. You cannot go to Venus. You cannot murder. You cannot. If you want to understand why, I can explain what actually happened. Regarding the mechanism of the bicycle, which is very interesting, and it's both the most alien thing of all, the most alien aspect of the aliens, like the bicycle mechanism, but it's also paradoxically the most widely used and widely known, at least by Israelis, more than 100 years, and also by many people abroad. So it's really paradoxical. It's both the most bizarre and extraordinary and explainable aspect of the alien presence in Earth, but at the same time it's part of Israeli culture, the widespread culture in Israel and also people abroad. So this is in several sagas in this channel, dig into this paradox. But there's still much to be said. Anyway, it's not the topic of this video. This is more a summary of the state of affairs. So we still have a little bit, quite a bit of remnants of burned material that was not completely burned, but might contain all sorts of neros that I don't want to throw. I don't want to give anything. So what I will do is I'll create my classical sculptures, eggs. The eggs. I have hundreds of these, of all sorts of types, or maybe even something more elaborate like the starship. I'll see. Anyway, that will contain all this stuff, so it will not be so nobody will get it. Maybe I'll do it today with the clay that I still have. I still have a little bit of clay. I'm almost out of money, and I need money for oil and basic stuff. Maybe I'll ask my mother. I'm in terrible need for money, just to buy basic stuff, unbelievably basic stuff. It's unbelievable how poor I am and how humiliated I am, and of course not seeing my daughters like for a year, and my heart is broken, and I feel ashamed for I feel ashamed, feel such a shame, for not being there for them. But I mean, what can I do? I mean, there is no way for me to do it without exposing both me and them to torture by the Israelis. This is reality. We need to be rescued. Really, I mean, my heart is broken. I watched, all these pictures. I mean, photographs, tremendous amount of photographs, like every day, they have throughout my daughters throughout their life, and I mean, and I'm not there in last year, and it breaks my heart. And the problem is that, of course, I mean, everybody that hears about it, I mean, they only give advice, but nobody moves an arm or a leg. Now, it should be said that, I mean, so regarding the one aspect of the bicycle mechanism, I will discuss like very shortly. It relates to Diamonds Are Forever that you just hear, like, so some people say, I mean, first of all, regarding the music that you will hear throughout the day, this will be a torture. Today, when I used, the app, like the taxi to get the taxi, and when I entered the taxi, I mean, you should understand this. I mean, this auditory sound, this sharing of auditory sound is not something permanent. It's something that was initiated, and it cannot be initiated by me. Why would I want it? I don't want it. But it cannot, and it have not. This was initiated by the taxi driver that this morning that I took from like close to the American embassy. I mean, to here to the apartment in 10 Israel Go Street, Tel Aviv. And he also initiated the auditory sense sharing. Now he did not do it in order to facilitate like some kind of like an operation to steal the news from me. Stealing the news from me is the main objective of every Israeli. I mean, that sees me see me in the street. But this auditory sensory sharing is not helpful for that purpose. I mean, maybe in a more very convoluted way, but I mean, mostly not. This was done purely for torture. He wanted to torture the innocent stranger that went into his taxi. After he himself, of course, I mean, chose to accept the drive. I mean, the ride. I mean, it's an app. Like, I mean, it's an app, and so I mean, it's a period in the app. He chose to take me and then to torture me, just for fun. Now listen very carefully. This is the standard behavior of every taxi driver that I ever met. Not 100% of them, but close to 100%. And they mostly do it not because they want to, not that stealing the news, stealing my immune system from me is kind of like, I mean, ulterior motive. It's also Nazi, I mean, in the highest level of Nazism, but it's not even that. They do it just for fun. They initiate the process, and they share the auditory sound, and then they play like a very I mean, disturbing like music in in the system, in the car, just in order to torture the passenger, the stranger, without any benefit to them besides the fun of the torture. This is a standard procedure, not during the 1980s, maybe also, but now, this morning. And that is why, and when I went out of the taxi, I'm still like in this bicycle connection. Of course, I know that I can break it, but why should I? I mean, you need to suffer. And when I say you, I mean the operators that are mostly Americans and mostly females. And after a day of suffering that you will hear Diamonds Are Forever in a loop, after a day of unbelievable torture, those that will stay alive will make sure that the taxi drivers in Israel do not torture me or any other innocent stranger just for fun. But I know for a fact that they will not move an arm or a leg before at least one day, or maybe better 24 hours of extreme torture. And that is exactly what I'm going to do. And that is my main purpose in the next 24 hours. Extreme torture of the female operators. Of course, it also affects other people, and I should explain why in just a second. But this is the main objective in order for this taxi hell to stop, and it will never stop without the torture. They could have stopped it 20 years ago, but they don't care. They just don't care. They just don't care. Diamonds Are Forever. I mean, Don't speak to me about love, don't speak to me about nothing. I mean, diamonds are forever and we don't care. Diamonds don't lie to me. The Israeli scumbags do not lie to me. I mean, yeah, sure, everything is fine. Only torture will fix this issue, and torture is coming. It's already here, and it will continue in the next 24 hours, and this is my main objective, more than anything else. Yes, I will also suffer, but they must be crushed. Because unless they are crushed, they will never move an arm or a leg. And they need to execute severe actions in order for this to be stopped. Certainly not movement of arms and legs, and certainly not depriving the taxi driver, this specific taxi driver, of Nero's. No, 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 no. If you think along these lines, it just it strengthens my conviction that 24 hours of auditory torture is needed. No, no, this is not the way to go, to deprive him of the drug. No, no, no. It's something else. If you don't understand what it is, I assure you, in 24 hours you will understand. I assure you. I swear by God, you will. In 24 hours you will understand what is needed. Yes, now you find it extreme. I assure you, God is my witness. In 24 hours you would not find it extreme. I assure you. Torture is my life every day, wherever I go. Not during the time of Jesus Christ, and not during the 1980s, and not during the 1930s. Today, this morning, and every other morning or in evening or any other time. Non-stop torture. Non-stop torture. Either in order to steal my immune system for me, and to make me like a wreck of a person and insane or unbelievably weak, or just for fun. These are the two main reasons. Now, an addendum regarding, so some people say, yeah, those Shirley Bassey that you think about, you don't understand. These were, these were the Titan films of the 80s. And yeah, following, some of the more knowledgeable, in my lore, the lore of lore, refer to the Bicycle 201 saga, which is actually in place, but also most of the addendums to the Bicycle 201 saga that was part of published in this channel, that discussed the outcome of what happened during the 1980s, specifically with regard to the bicycle mechanism. So they say, these were horse during the 80s. So, and you just mix you are reenacting things from the 80s, and we respect it because we respect you, and you are kind of like a weird prophet, and we learn to understand that you are not part of any intelligence service, and you have no prior knowledge. It's just your mind, constructing puzzles and all sorts of prophecies. But this is, you need to understand, this relates to the 80s, and these people are dead. And what we have now is actually what you call, you might call it reincarnation, but we just, we don't really understand what actually happened. The fact of the situation is that, now there are Titan females in the United States and also in other places, in Europe and other places, but they are very young. And they're certainly not the devil females that you think about, and they're certainly not in high level, functionaries in any intelligence service at all. Some of them are in high school. So let me address these claims. This is indeed a complicated saga, but after you deal with it for so long and you speak about it for so long, you understand that many things that it doesn't really matter you think that they are in the first place. And let me explain why. It took me a lot of time to actually say imitato Deus, Dios, to imitate God. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. It's extremely. Sometimes it's easier. To imitate the ways of the Lord. The way that that God, of course you cannot imitate the way that He acts, because He's omnipotent and you're just flesh and blood and one person, great, just a worm. But you try when you become closer to God, and certainly doing such a spiritual journey like what I'm having like in the last 4.5 years, yes, I mean strong aspect is, and I've spoken about quite a bit, like is to imitate God, like imitator Dios, like I mean, and this is something that I mean, of course it's I mean it's borrowed from Christianity, and of course I consider myself Christian, but I mean it has, of course, I mean some kind of parallels like both in Islam and even to some extent in Judaism. So it's very monotheistic in nature, like the idea that I mean, not like I mean out of vanity, of course, like I mean that you think that you are God, but I mean just I mean to try to understand the ways of the Lord, because God is not like without properties. I mean, whatever you read like the Old Testament or the New Testament, then of course, I mean, the Quran is a little bit different, because in Islam, more than like any other religion, I think, like I mean, they strictly I mean tend to adopt the strictly, I mean very strictly transcendental like God, like I mean even more than Jews and certainly more than Catholics, and even more and more than Protestants. Like that's why they don't even speak about like Allah. I mean they mostly, I mean, you know, they speak about Muhammad, because I mean part of it is just because I mean they are very strict in like I mean in transcendentalism, like of like, and this was also accepted by Judaism. I mean and I mean not always, but certainly in the last 1,000 years. I don't want to get into it now. It's a philosophical issue, but I mean the fact, I mean in Islam it's more problematic because of like the strict transcendentalism. But I mean in Judaism and like in the New Testament, the Old Testament, I mean the God had properties. Like I mean he's not just I mean some dude, like you know, some guy. God, like you know, I mean he speaks, and he has like I mean properties, and like and you can actually speak about God. Like you could speak about like I mean what he's doing and what he says, like I mean, and like what he like, and the ways of like his conduct. So one of the aspects of imitator Dios is, I mean, to stop, I mean, to understand that and it's very difficult. For me, it was very difficult. I mean, this specific thing, I mean, not the whole idea of imitator Dios, I mean, because it's also manifestation, but I mean, the specific thing of like, I mean, to stop thinking about Titans and Homo sapiens as something that is like fundamentally different. To understand that, I mean, it's not that they're almost the same, and I mean, you need to think about like nations and about like populations of entire planets, like the planet Venus, the planet Earth, other planets, or sometimes like specific nations. But like the species, the race is not that important, and it's not like just I mean from like purely like I mean anti-racist like view, or it's because I mean, which is also a defined kind of a position like to adapt, but I mean it's more than that. I mean because I mean they share the same origin, and after some time they become the same, like when they live together, for the good and the bad, mostly the bad. Yes, many Titans females, they didn't die during the 80s. The worst crime was the way that they treated my predecessor. After he released them from their captivity, they stabbed them in the back. But they had other crimes that are related to the way that they treated the males from Venus. And this is still going, unfortunately. And they didn't die immediately. I mean, they were kind of like, I mean, linked together in kind of like, I mean, using kind of like a bacteria, maybe the train bacteria, maybe some kind of like a variant. And they lived some time, like, I mean, in like a very miserable existence. And then they died. And I actually describe this kind of like, I mean, death in kind of like a poetic way in like a video that I've had, like, I mean, when I walked like along the beach, like of Tel Aviv, in one of my many walks along the beach. It's actually a nice video of me because it's very poetic, like, I mean, I describe, I'm not sure if it happened just like that, maybe it's kind of like a metaphor, but the idea was that, I mean, that they died probably during the 1990s, after like several years of this punishment, and that the death was initiated by myself, probably as a young, as a teenager, I mean, or even a child, even like the early 90s. And it was done without me knowing nothing about it at all, just by walking on the beach of Tel Aviv, as I do a lot, and I still do a lot. I mean, it's still something that I've done it all my life and still do it a lot. And and this was related to the issue of the natural symbols, because the nature itself, I mean, they have symbols that are part of the Nero language, and it's an extremely interesting subject, and I spoke about it in the past, but not enough. But there is still much to be researched and thought about. Like, I mean, it's a huge field that very interesting. That I don't have like the inclination to get into it. I mean, it's kind of like both philosophical and empirical and very interesting. Like the natural symbols. I mean, the most obvious of all the natural symbols is the moon, because all the portals that you know of in Earth are moon gates actually. I mean, they're solar gates because they're part of the solar system, but they are all moon. They're all related to all the portals that you know of and you knew of in the past. They were all moon gates. They were all, I mean, gates that are governed by the moon to some. I mean, not by the moon itself, but by the symbol of the moon, of course. I mean, not the moon kind of, I mean, opened and closed the gate. I mean, the Neros closed and opened the gate, and the Neros are actually the gates, probably. I'm not certain about it. I've never seen a gate in my life, like a portal in my life. I've only seen microscopic samples. But I mean, from what I've seen under the microscope, I mean, it makes sense that the portals are actually huge Neros, but maybe not. I don't know. It just makes sense, but maybe not. I've never seen like one in my life. Certainly, I've never passed through one in my life. But I've never seen a photograph. I don't know how it looks. I mean, I guess it looks like a Nero, but not microscopic, but big one. But so I mean, this is the most obvious of the natural symbols, the moon. But there are other natural symbols, and the discussions in this channel, I don't want to repeat myself, and there is still much to be learned, like, I mean, by myself, most of all. Like, I mean, this very interesting subject, extremely interesting, because like, I mean, because the solar system and mostly the solar systems, maybe also, I mean, other solar systems, but I cannot speak about it like in any intelligible way. But I mean, our solar system, like this solar system, I mean, and also, I mean, also like natural symbols like rivers and the sea. The sea is extremely, like, extremely important. They symbolize, like, I mean, they have like an operational, like, I mean, validity to the Neros to conduct all sorts of stuff. This is true both in Earth and Venus and presumably everywhere. And like, I mean, this is of course part of providence, because I mean, a person of no belief can say that, I mean, the solar system was created, by just, I mean, random explosion and just, I mean, materialization of, like, of gases together, and everything is random. But it's absolutely not true. The solar system was created by God, and it was designed by an intelligent designer. And just, I mean, what you think of as not nature, from that perspective, everything is artificial. From that perspective, there is no such a thing as natural. Everything is artificial, because everything is the artifice of God. It's a paraphrase, like, famous, like verse in Tehillim, like Psalms. I'm too tired, like, I mean, so I'm not really, I haven't slept for 2 days, so 2 nights, so, but I mean, like, there's a verse in Psalms that, like, everything, like, the heaven and the earth, like, is the artificial, like, I mean, of God, so everything is artificial. Like, the distinction of natural is, I mean, not always even valid at all. Anyway, let's not get into it, but the idea that, I mean, I walked, like, as a child or like a young teenager, like, I mean, like, and along the beach, and I've watched the sea, and the sea, sometimes it actually symbolizes death. Specifically, if you see, like, I mean, and the symbols, I mean, what you see many times, like, I mean, like, symbols that are one on top of the other, they can also, like, I mean, have effect of, like, if they come one after the other. Like, if you see something that during the day and they during the night, it can have an effect. Now, the symbols have an effect even if you don't mean it. Like, and so there's a huge question of, like, why? Why don't you need, like, you, like the observer, need to actually mean, like, I mean, to know that, I mean, why does it work, like, I mean, even if you don't mean it? Like, I mean, if you just, I mean, exposed to the symbols, like, and you watch, I mean, you have, like, visual, like, and you visually watches, you have like visual, clear visual, perception of the symbols. I mean, and the arnios, like, I mean, it's part of the scene. I mean, so I mean, they can, like, I mean, it's like a valid like symbol for them, like, to operate accordingly. So there's a huge question why, and I actually haven't spoken about it. I never spoken about it. And it's another thing that's related to theology and philosophy. And I mean, it's not the time to get into it. But it's also very interesting, like, question. Like, I mean, so why do you? I mean, you don't need the intention. Like, I mean, kavanah. Like, I mean, why? And it's very huge subject. Of course, related also to. I mean, to issues that are related to all monotheist cultures. I mean, both Islam and Christianity and Judaism. And so the idea is that I walked along the beach, and the natural symbols dictated the death of these like a horse of the 1980s, and they understood it when it happened. They understood that it happened, and they had like I don't know, like a seconds or minutes or an hour, like, I mean, before they died, when they were, I mean, released from this kind of like joining this kind of like, the captivity of the worm, and they were happy about it. Like, I mean, they kind of like, I don't know if they say Shema Israel, as they Jews, like, I mean, presumably, pious Jews do. Probably they didn't say Shema Israel and I had, but I mean. That they, I mean, they accepted it. I mean, they were happy about it, and they died. Then they died. And all of this ordeal is actually it's a kind of artistic. I mean, artistic. I have like a painting that strongly relates to this kind of like, I mean, to this historical. I mean, historical drama from the 1990s. Even though it was a very nice painting, and I ruined it with another layer, and I think that I need to like retouch it, like to fix it and to. I mean, a shame that using oil colors, you cannot revert like to a previous layer like in Photoshop, because I want to revert like to a previous like, I mean, version of the painting. Maybe I'll do it. Probably I'll do it, because like the latest one is not. I don't like it. But I mean, the previous one was actually, it would demonstrate that it's very abstract, of course, but to some extent it symbolizes like what actually happened during the 1990s with this kind of like, with me as like an innocent observer that just, I mean, the child that walks along the beach, like, or teenager walks along, as I've done many times before and after, and all the time. But I mean, the natural symbols dictated their freedom and death. Now, how did they appear as younger women, or? It's a question, and maybe we'll discuss it some other time. But the main, I mean, the thing is that, I mean, all of this, I mean, it's interesting, but from like my current situation, it almost means nothing. I mean, because what happened is that after that, I mean, the people that actually control the scumbags, the pedophiles, the goons that you hear right now, I mean, making the noises like in the kitchen, because they don't like me to speak. I don't know why. Maybe my speech causes the worms in their body to dance. I don't know. But they really hate it when I speak. So when I speak, they always do noises, like, you hear now. But so these people, so instead of like, I mean, the Titan females that operated them, it was now, I mean, just, I mean, other operators. And outside of Israel, it can be like anybody. But in Israel, it was, I mean, like something that was delegated to mostly females. I don't know why. Also to prostitutes, like, I mean, just the Homo sapiens prostitutes, that, I mean, they mostly, they recruit them like in the military service, because what's nice about the military service in Israel is that, I mean, all the hosts, I mean, are kind of like, I mean, having like the time of their life, and I mean, so, I mean, the recruiters of the Shabak and the Mossad, like, they are having like, I mean, the field day of like recruiting the prostitutes, because that's the, I mean, obviously the people that they want the most, not for their own usage. Famously, they are all homosexuals and or pedophiles. But I mean, they like prostitutes because, I mean, that's like, I mean, there are actually very many reasons for that, not even one. I mean, first of all, because, I mean, intelligence services certainly one that is kind of like old school and disgusting, like the Israeli ones. I mean, they like prostitutes, first of all, like for operations, and also because these people have no moral. I mean, sorry, I mean, but sluts are in general much less. Sorry for the slut shaming, but yes, I mean, they want the woman without morals. And also another reason is that they think that such women will be able to will want to actually marry them, like, I mean, in a kind of sexless and loveless marriage that for convenience. And it's, I mean, the system works. I mean, because many do. I mean, you know, and then, like, I mean, presumably everybody's like, it's kind of like, I mean, you know, convenience marriage. And the assumption is that sluts will be more prone to agree to that. In it, I mean, you know, the system, I mean, it works. I mean, works. It's like, it's disgusting, but you know, it's what it is. So these females, they eat a lot of the drug, the tea. I mean, now there is that the tea apocalypse. But what, I mean, they quickly forgot that, I mean, during the 80s there was a tea apocalypse. So after the 90s, like in the last 20 years, I mean, they just, I mean, all this kind of new, and these women are mostly about my age. Like I'm 40, I'll be 40 this January. So there's something like that, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Between 30 and 40, I guess, not much more than that. And these women are maybe 30 to 50, I don't know. I mean, these are Homo sapiens females, prostitutes in the past and or present. You know, famously after them, you know, their prostitution, like, I mean, they become operators, and after that they become propaganda writers, and these are generally the scums that, I mean, are feeding you, you know, the YouTube bullshit, like, you know, up your throat, like, I don't know what. It's mostly, ex-prostitutes that are now writing, you know, writing YouTube propaganda and things like that. Anyway, though, so, I mean, they quickly forgot that, I mean, about the tea apocalypse, and voila, and again, tea, I mean, you know, and they have me, like, as a prime supplier of, like, best quality tea, but they have other ways as well, and, I mean, so they become, like, tea monsters. So, in essence, they just, I mean, replace the titans of, like, the hordes of the 80s. I mean, because, I mean, no, it's not the same biology, and I discussed a lot, like, in other sagas, I mean, the differences in biology, and, like, but from operational perspective, like, I mean, in the organizational perspective, it's just the same thing. I mean, they enter the same category, like, I mean, the same kind of, like, organizational slot or organizational slut, both slot and slut, like, I mean, the same kind of, like, I mean, because when Homo sapiens eat so much of the drug, it becomes what I call hybrid, and it's a term that I use a lot in this channel, and also long before this channel was created, in the YouTube, I mean, Facebook, in Twitter, in Evernote. Like, it's kind of like, I mean, it's a recurring term, even though I do not use it in the strictly biological way. I use it kind of like in my own idiosyncratic way of the hybrids. But I mean, generally, I mean that, I mean, Homo sapiens, they eat a lot of the drug. So, I mean, from functional perspective, they are just like titans. And also, if titans, I mean, if people take all the robots from the titans, and they can do it, and they've done it a lot in the past, so the titans are just like Homo sapiens. So, I mean, from operational perspective, like, I mean, from functional perspective, I mean, you know, just, I mean, down to earth perspective, not like long-term things or philosophical issues. So they just fit the same slots, and this is still going on. So when I discuss American operators, sluts, that, I mean, that are operating these goons that are torturing me, and also they operate they have ways to discipline the sadistic creatures, like the taxi driver that I mentioned from this morning. But they don't do it because they don't care at all about me. From their perspective, I'm nothing, even though their life depends on me. They don't care. Generally, for the same reasons that, I mean, the Titan hordes of the 80s, I mean, did it, because they just don't care. Because they just don't care. They don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't hate me. They don't love me. They just don't care. They just don't care. From their perspective, I mean, just a meat bag, like literally meat bag. It's a bag of meat, like, I mean, and probably that's how they treat everybody. But I mean, it doesn't, like, give me any comfort, of course. I mean, this is disgusting. This is, I mean, this is the lowest kind of, like, I mean, sentient behavior. So why should I care? I mean, pardon my French, what the fuck should I care if they are, like, I mean, they were born in Venus, or they were born in Cholon, or Bat Yam, or Jerusalem? Who cares? I mean, who cares? I mean, because in essence they do the same. It's just the same thing. Like, I mean, it's just the same thing. Okay, anyway, it will be all for now. We'll see how we continue today. Again, the most important thing is to continue the auditory sharing. And of course now, I will increase the sound once this video is done. And hopefully after 24 hours of this joy, maybe these hookers in the United States and other places will have different views of whether it's so smart to treat me as a meatbag for 40 years and still counting.